Hey there, Matt Weiner here for Fade In, and today we're going to be looking at 7 things to help you master the art of action block formatting for your screenplay. Number 1, write in the present tense. Why? Because the screenplay is happening right now in the moment for the audience. So instead of saying John sprinted down the alley, say John sprints down the alley. It's an easy rule, but it's a hard thing to remember and to actually implement in your writing. Number 2, and you're going to hear this a lot, show, don't tell. Your job as a writer is to show what you can see on the screen instead of what the characters are thinking and feeling. So if a character is nervous, you shouldn't say they're nervous. You should describe what makes it look like they're nervous. This is very hard to do consistently, and I'll admit that I say so and so is nervous or so and so is frustrated or so and so is angry because I think that you can figure that out a lot better than saying, uh, you know, Matt grabs the steering wheel so tight that his knuckles turn white, or he furrows his brow. There are only so many times that you can say those things. So you're going to fall back on showing emotion by writing it. But as a general rule, if you can avoid it, if you're a better wordsmith than I am, then definitely find a way to describe what people are feeling instead of just saying what they're feeling. Number 3, open with a clear, immediate scene anchor. What does that mean? It means if you are in a new location, have a 1 sentence description of that location instead of a bunch of flowery prose. But if something important needs to happen, start there, such as boom, an explosion of glass. And then you can say, Matt gets pushed out the window, and you can describe the scene after that. But every scene should start with a short sentence that either brings you into the scene as an anchor or hits you with something exciting like an action beat. Number 4, and this is something that you're going to see every time you get coverage back from a studio or a professional reader or coverage company, and that is to keep your action blocks short and scannable. The truth about readers is a lot of them scan your material because they're reading a ton of scripts, and a lot of them are really long, and most of them are really bad. And so you have to get used to keeping your action blocks short so that you can retain your reader's attention and that you can avoid the dreaded reader fatigue. So, in practice, that means that your action block shouldn't be any longer than 1 to 3 lines tops. If you see a block of 4 lines, find some way to break that sucker up into 2 different action blocks. Number 5, use your white space on the page. You want your page to look desirable to the reader. You want to be able to scan it. You want to be able to see that it's not going to feel like a novel and just a block of text that you're going to be bored to tears with. So, white space is extremely important when you're writing a spec script. Once you become famous, do whatever you want. But if you want to try to advance in competitions, or if you're chasing a recommend in coverage, which you should never do, but if you want to do those things, you're going to have to look at white space, and that's going to impact your page count. So it's another thing you got to keep up in your noggin, even though we're not talking about plot points and character arcs or anything like that at this point. You still got to keep it up here. But white space, to me, is almost as important as hitting your inciting incident on page 7 or 15 or whatever you're going with. White space. Number 6, series of shots. Use it. Use it like you would use a montage inside the action block so that you can cover things quickly. And in Final Draft, they have an element called general instead of action block that is a different type of formatting. It's single spaced instead of double spaced. And I'm going to show you an example when we're done here of how that looks on the page and why it works so well. I'll show you how to do it. And if you're using a software that's not Final Draft, I guarantee that they have a similar function that you can put in its place. Number 7, using all caps. Do it sparingly. Sometimes it's necessary, like when you're introducing a character, but you can also use all caps to emphasize things like sounds or objects if they're important. If you use it too much, it's kind of like using an exclamation point. You should only be given a certain number of exclamation points in your lifetime, and then once you use them up, you should never be allowed to use an exclamation point again. Well, it's the same with all caps. If you use them a little bit and you pepper them into your script, it'll help enhance the narrative and keep the reader engaged. But if you're using it every 2 to 3 sentences, it's going to get tedious, and you're going to see through your writing and into your style, which isn't ideal. It's the same with dashes. I am guilty of using dashes a lot in my scripts because I like interrupting things and having things happen in the middle of a sentence, or quickly revealed, and the way that I indicate that is with 2 dashes. I'm trying I'm trying to use it less and less. It's a crutch and I'm trying to get rid of it, but none of us are perfect. If we were, we wouldn't be unestablished writers. We'd be working writers, okay? So, but for purposes of spec scripts and all caps, use them, but use them sparingly. All right, those are the 7 things that you can do in your action blocks to make your writing stand out so that everybody knows you're a professional and you're not some sort of amateur or novice. Now, I'm going to show you what it looks like on the page. I'm going to show you 2 different versions of a scene from one of the screenplays that I've written, a screenplay called All Things Broken. I'm going to show you the first draft of the scene, and then I'm going to show you the final draft of the scene so you can compare how they look on the page and you can decide for yourself which one you would rather read. So here we go. All right, so here's the first draft of a scene that I wrote for my screenplay, All Things Broken. It's a kidnapping scene, so it's all action pretty much. That's why I chose it. I'm just going to read it to you. But first, when you look at the page, you can see how dense this is with text. And I've even broken up the paragraphs, right? So you've got blocks of 4, 2, 3, 4, 4. But man, as a reader, if I were to look at this page, I'd be less interested in reading it because it just feels like homework, right? All right, so let's get through it. Stab. Alice stabs Cy in the neck with a syringe. He reacts on instinct, his military training kicking in. He swings the wrench behind him, striking Alice in the arm and knocking her down, her head hitting the side of the van. So there are typos in here. I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing in here. He reacts on instinct, his military training kicking in. How are you supposed to see that on the scene? Or on the screen, right? So I'm violating a lot of the rules that I just went through with you, but it's a first draft, and so you put it on paper and you see if you like it, just to get the story out there, and then you start, moving things around and playing with it. On his feet now, the syringe still sticking out of his neck, Alice holds her arm and pushes herself away from him. He pulls the syringe out and tosses it away. He considers the wrench in his hand and the woman on the ground. He shakes his head, trying to soldier through ever increasing grogginess. He drops the wrench and makes for the truck. Wide eyed, Alice scrambles for the tool and rushes towards him, hitting him in the back. He winces and turns, grabbing her by the shoulders and forcefully shoving her away, knocking her down again. If you notice, a lot of the words in here are in present tense, but not the right type of present tense. I shouldn't be saying hitting him. Alice hits him. She's not hitting him. She hits him. He's not knocking her down. He knocks her down. That kind of active voice, those kind of action words help make it more cinematic. How it helps it make it feel like it's more in the moment. And so when I go back in and I edit my writing, I'm looking for things like that so that I can change it from hitting to hits or knocking to knock. I actually do a control F ing and I try to find all of my ing words to see if I can, turn them into something more active. Let's keep going. Cy's world tilts out of focus as he gets to the truck and turns on the engine. There's nothing Alice can do as Cy backs out of the spot and begins to drive off. She grabs her injured arm and watches as his driving becomes erratic. Again, driving becomes like all of this stuff can be written in a much more focused, active way. Before she's able to exit the garage, Cy swerves. The truck smashes into a concrete pillar, stopping it. Cy hits his head on the steering wheel. He grabs his phone, still no service. The drugs take hold. As hard as he fights it, his eyes close and he slumps over, unconscious. Alice breathes heavily and waits for something to happen. Nothing does. The truck sits motionless against the pillar. She looks at her hands. They're shaking. She closes her eyes and focuses on her breathing. Series of shots. So I am using a series of shots here, but I'm not using it in the right way. I've made series of shots a slug line, and then I have the action blocks. They're just covered in dashes. And when you look at this thing, it's like, man, is this an outline for a class in high school or something? Or what am I reading? It's just there's too many dashes. It's just too broken up like bullet points, and it doesn't keep you engaged. But anyway, let's keep going. Series of shots. Tries the door to Cy's truck, but it's locked. She breaks the window with the wrench. Pulls Cy's body out of the truck. He's dead weight, and it's quite a struggle to get him on the ground, especially with her injured arm. Opens the trunk of her van, revealing. So now I've got dashes within dashes. It's like bullet points, like an outline, right? This doesn't feel cinematic. Opens the trunk of her van, revealing a spare tire, an expandable wheelchair ramp, bedding, furniture moving harness straps, a cooler, a tripod, a long rectangular stainless steel case, a child's backpack designed to look like a unicorn. Man, that's a lot of stuff to keep track of, isn't it? Probably too much stuff to keep track of. And I think I probably cut half of it by the time I got to the final draft. Alice touches the backpack and hesitates. Finally, she unzips it to reveal zip ties and a bandana. Her demeanor hardens. Series of shots. So I've got two different slug lines here for series of shots because I'm just doing. It's too much montaging. It's too many series of shots here. Too many dashes. Um, but so okay. So series of shots. Part two. Connects the ramp to the side of the van. She pushes the third row of seats into the floor of the vehicle. Lays a bed sheet next to Cy and struggles to roll him onto it. She loops the furniture straps around Cy's arms and then around her shoulders, and she drags him to the van, uses several zip ties from the backpack to secure Cy's hands behind his back and bind his ankles together. She wraps the bandana around his head to gag him. She uses straps to pull Cy into the back of the van, changes the flat tire with ease, takes a syringe from the cooler, injects Cy in the arm, and then covers him with a comforter, puts everything back in the trunk, and pauses to think. She looks back over to the truck, grabs Cy's cell phone out of the truck, holds the cell phone up to Cy's face, unlocking it. She maneuvers to the settings and turns off all the privacy features, then double checks to make sure that she can turn it on without a password, a fingerprint, or a face. Alice drives out of the garage, leaving Cy's truck, her flat tire, and Cy's blazer behind. Notably, her van has a Virginia license plate. Man, that's a lot of stuff that she did, and boy, did I get bored reading it. Okay, what does it look like after draft and draft and draft and month and month and month of editing? This is what it looks like. Right away, you can see all of the extra white space on the page. What I just read to you is 2 pages long. What I'm about to read to you is 3 pages long, but it moves a lot faster and it's a lot easier to follow and it's a lot more cinematic and there's more white space, there's more empty room, there's more room for it to breathe even with the series of shots, and it doesn't feel overwhelming or confusing. At least I don't think so. Stab! Alice plunges a syringe through Cy's shirt deep into his right deltoid. He jerks violently and swings the wrench backward with his left hand, sending Alice crashing into the van. Cy staggers. The world tilts. Through blurred vision, he locks on to Alice, eyes wide with fear. She holds her arm and shakes her head. He looks down at the wrench, tight in his grip, drops it. He yanks the syringe out of his arm, tossing it away, pushes forward, step by shaky step, toward his truck. Alice's mind races. She spots the wrench, scrambles for it. In a flash, she's on her feet, charging at Cy from behind. Slam! Right between his shoulder blades. The breath whooshes out of him. He twists around and shoves her back to the concrete. He makes it to the truck, hands trembling as he fumbles with his keys. The engine roars to life. Tires screech. He throws the truck into reverse. Alice clutches her arm, frozen as the truck shifts into drive and jerks forward, careens wildly. Crash! Cy slams the truck into a concrete pillar with a deafening impact, launching his face into the steering wheel. The horn blares for a long beat before cutting off. Blood trickles from his busted nose. He tries to use his cell phone, but the drugs went out. His body goes limp. The phone clatters to the floor. Alice stares at the wreck, chest heaving. She looks away with sudden regret, covers her eyes. A couple of deep breaths later, she lowers her hands. Later, in the van's trunk, bedding, a folded wheelchair, a cooler, a tripod, a long stainless steel case, and a unicorn backpack. Alice Alice's fingers pause on the backpack's zipper. She opens it, zip ties, a bandana, gloves, a mask. Series of shots. Alice smashes Cy's window with the wrench, drags him out, straining with his weight, unlocks his phone with his face and disables its security, lifts Cy into a wheelchair and wheels him to the van, zip ties his wrists and ankles, gags him, struggles to move him into the back seat, covers him with bedding, slams the trunk closed. Catching her breath, she reaches into her pocket for her keys. They're not there. A wave of panic hits her. She frantically pats herself down, eyes darting around the pavement and under the van. Alice, no, 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 no. Desperate, she looks around. Something shimmers a few spots away, near where she hit the ground the second time. She rushes to the item. Her keys. Shaking, she clutches the keys to her chest and box breathes. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Hold for 4. Repeat. Later, leaving the truck behind, Alice's van exits the garage. It has a Virginia license plate. Less is happening here than happened in the first version of the scene. But it's more cinematic and it keeps you in the action. There are things that I could have done here that I didn't do, such as make more things in all caps, right? So the breath whooshes out of him. I could do that. The engine roars to life. Tires screech. How did I spell that wrong now? Screech. He throws the truck into reverse, right? So those are all appropriate to be in all caps. But then if you look, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got like 8 things in all caps here, and it kind of loses its effect, its impact. You want the reader to see stab with an exclamation point, right? I'm running out of exclamation points. I think I used like 4 or 5 of them here. I've got stab, I got slam, I got crash, and those all have exclamation points, and they're all in all caps. So I'm clearly indicating to the reader noise, right? But if I do it too much, it loses its impact. If you look down here at series of shots, it's no longer a slug line, it's in the action block, and you have the dashes essentially as bullet points, but they're short, they're quick, they're not multi-lines. It's one thing that happens per line, and you read them very quickly, and it's a different format. You can see on the top here that we're in the action element, but when you go down here, you can see that we're in the general element, and that's what I was talking about earlier. The general element in Final Draft is single spaced. I mean, you can set the settings to whatever you want. I just use the general settings instead of going in to the action settings and changing when it's justified or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And so this is just a very easy way. I go down here, I write it, I hit general, and now it's single spaced, and it reads easier, because if I were to make all of this action, now we're taking up like half a page, and I don't like looking at it. It looks like a struggle to get through. This looks like a series of shots. The other thing to notice is that you can capitalize things that aren't just sounds. A unicorn backpack, that's important. It's like I could even do this if I wanted to, because the unicorn backpack becomes very important to the story, and I want the reader to remember the unicorn backpack. So if I had just written it like this, that's not going to stick with you as much as this. I would not recommend doing bold, underline, and italicize. You got to know your limits when it comes to style and formatting. I also do the all caps here for her keys, which has its own line because it's important. She's panicking. It's a false victory. She got Cy. She got him. He's unconscious. She's got him. She's ready to go. She did it. She's getting away with it, but she doesn't have her keys, right? And this is not about um, how to write a script or what is the right way to write a script. But for me in this scene, I wanted her to have a moment of panic that she wasn't going to get away with this meticulous kidnapping that she planned that didn't go right even from the beginning, because when she stabbed him he fought back and she had to wait for him to crash the car, and then she had to like drag him out and all this kind of stuff, and then she doesn't have her keys, right? And so I wanted that to hit as a moment. Her keys, right? It's the same at the end here. I'm taking up a lot of real estate on the page with how I'm doing the box breathing, but I want the reader to do it the way that Alice is doing it. And so if I had it like this, it reads the same, but it doesn't feel the same. In for four, hold for four, out for four, hold for four, as opposed to doing it on every line. But right here, what I did is set something up that it's a bonus note. It's a bonus kind of stylistic thing that I want to bring up in action blocks because I see this all the time in screenplays and it drives me crazy. And it's the first thing I do when I'm doing a polish on a script. I call them orphan words. And what I mean by that is if you look at the word repeat, it's the only word on the line. When I'm going through a script, and if I see one or two words alone on a line of action or dialogue, it drives me crazy because when you add them all up, it's like a page or two of wasted space, wasted real estate where you could be, being more creative with your formatting in white space or adding more substance so that you're bringing your page count down. There are so many different ways to write something that you can always find a way to bring that orphan word up to the line before it, and that's going to save you space. So here, in for four, hold for four, out for four, hold for four, repeat. How would I bring that word up? In for four, hold for four, out for four, hold for four. That looks really ugly, but that's just an example of how you can always find a way to reword something to get that orphan word up from that line to the line before it. It's going to save you page space, and it's going to make your scripts shorter and tighter and easier to read, and it's going to minimize the danger of reader fatigue. Say no to reader fatigue. That's what we're doing. No reader fatigue. And there you have it. 7 things that every screenwriter should know about action blocks. You get these right, and your scripts will read faster, they'll look cleaner, they'll feel more professional. And that means a better shot of keeping your reader engaged and hooked. If you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe, hit the bell so that you're notified of future creative content and tutorials and educational materials, and also be on the lookout for my reads of some of the screenplays that I've written over the past 20 years. That'll be coming out in the weeks ahead as well. Until next page, I'm Matt Weiner, and this is Fade In, Original Screenplays read by the author.